Hi, everybody. I'm Luca Paris, and we are talking about fungi. No, not the guy who's going to be on my show with me, but mushrooms. And this is going to be our culinary journey. Just do a little bit of an angle. You get to see all these mushrooms. I'll tell you all about them today. We're going to talk about making steak with mushrooms, one of Lee's favorite, and you can't go wrong. We're going to make a salad with mushrooms, and we're going to make bruschetta with tartufi. We'll talk about truffles also on the show. So we got mushrooms. We got David Wichland. He's the mushroom guy in Keene, and only for the ones you can eat and enjoy. Hey, stay here because your culinary journey starts now. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you to our great audience today. We're here on our culinary journey. I'm with David Wichland. David, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Fantastic. Dave, you've been on my radio show. We've been talking together about mushrooms for years. Finally got you on my TV show. So
I know, this is pretty exciting. I've never been on a live TV show before.
Neither have I.
You've done well then.
Oh, wait. No, I've been here a while. But hey, listen, we're going to talk about mushrooms today. It's what you do. You do a lot of different mushrooms. You forage them and you grow them, right?
Yep. Forage them, grow them, and I also do mycological landscaping.
Okay.
And that's
you
bring in mycelium into your gardens, and you actually start to create a symbiotic relationship with the plants and the mycelium.
Really?
And then you get the mushrooms growing in your garden.
Excellent.
So they are good for your plants, and you can cut them off and eat some yourself when you're ready.
We'll talk today a little bit about how we go finding mushrooms.
Yep.
And that's not the easiest thing in the world. If you don't know, don't do. Contact you first, right?
That's a good rhyme.
If you don't know, don't do. Contact you.
Yeah.
You're going to put that on your card?
I might.
I get a commission on that. Just so you know. Well, we're going to start off. We're going to make a warm mushroom salad, David, and we'll talk a little bit about the mushrooms that we have in front of us. But I want to get these in the oven. This is our bruschetta that we're going to do. I'm going to put a little extra virgin olive oil on both of these. People have seen my show, have seen me do this before.
And mushrooms and bread are best friends.
Mushrooms and bread?
Yep.
Really?
They really are. It's just such a beautiful...
How about garlic?
Garlic's good too.
All right. Well,
everyone's different.
Smush some roasted garlic on there. And now the mushrooms that are around this area, I mean, we're in the northeast area, and that's where you find most of your mushrooms. Are they seasonal?
Very.
And what kind of growing seasons do you have?
Some mushrooms can grow for three weeks to a month in the summer. Some you might come up in one day and it will be gone.
Really?
And if you don't pick it then and probably eat it that night, then it's not even worth you picking it.
All right, so we'll get this bruschetta in the oven. We got that garlic on the one side. Then what we're going to put on it when it comes out is black truffles, or tartufi in Italian. Now, black truffles are a mushroom, yes?
No.
Or no? Okay.
They're a scolerita. And the scolerita is basically the bulb which gives rise to the mushroom.
Okay.
And the truffle scolerita is highly valued because its flavor is so powerful.
Right.
And you can actually ruin a dish by putting too much truffle in it.
Exactly.
And a lot of times you go to these fancy restaurants and you'll see little shavings of truffle.
Right.
Well, there's kind of a reason for that. Another one, they're like $1,000 a pound.
Exactly.
Another is that their flavor is so powerful that if you put a bunch of that truffle on there, it would overwhelm the dish and it just wouldn't be that good.
And then, does that go for a lot of different mushrooms? Do you have to be careful on the flavor of the mushrooms overpowering your dish?
Maybe a few select mushrooms, but for the most part, yep.
That's the one.
Now, the truffle does give rise to a very small mushroom, but that does not have its value because it's a very small, spindly mushroom. But it is the truffle that has the...
Speaking of, how many different flavors are there out there?
Oh, there's probably as many flavors as there are meats and foods that you can find in different mushrooms. It's just amazing.
In the thousands, at least.
Probably, you know.
Wonderful. Well, let's pick a couple today. We're going to do a warm mushroom salad. Now, before we get the salad going and the mushroom sauteing, I'm going to cut up for our vinaigrette. Now, you know, back in the 80s when I was working in restaurants, one of the things we always saw out there were the warm mushroom salads. You take the raw button mushrooms, throw them on a spinach salad, and then you put like a vinaigrette, a shallot vinaigrette of some sort, or a pancetta vinaigrette, or a bacon vinaigrette. Now that's what I want to try and recreate here, but what I'm doing is taking shallots and roasted prosciutto. I pre-roasted these with a little salt on it. You can't get enough of the prosciutto. And I get that with a good amount of oil to start the base of our warm salad. So we're going to let the shallots kind of caramelize in there. So we'll leave that in there with the oil. Now, what kind of mushrooms can I serve with this salad? And should I do them raw? That's the question.
You really shouldn't do raw mushrooms. We're just about the only culture in the world that actually eats raw mushrooms.
Right.
And they do say that the human body's probably evolved, as say our appendix has evolved away from certain things. And we don't do very well with raw mushrooms in our bodies. Mushrooms themselves are the grand molecular disassemblers. So they're responsible for breaking down anything that's lignous matter, plants, grasses, compost, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So when you take something into your body raw like that, that's whole purpose is to break down, it's going to try to break you down.
So people who've been eating a lot of raw mushrooms are
well,
breaking down.
they've kind of linked that maybe it's been a source of possible cancers.
Really?
Yeah.
But cooked, we're breaking down some of those enzymes.
That's right.
That do that.
They're rendered benign.
Okay.
And then we're able to uptake the nutrients from the mushrooms once they're heat treated. But raw, they just aren't so good.
Perfect. So we are going to cook our mushrooms. What kind of mushrooms should I be using in my dressing or my salad?
I think a good one will be shiitake. Shiitake crisps up nicely.
Okay.
And it really has a nice flavor in a salad. Maybe some oyster mushroom. They kind of will lend themselves very, very well together. None of the flavors will kind of overpower one another.
Now, is shiitake a Japanese mushroom? Is that right?
We do have shiitake here in our eastern forest, but originally they are from the Asian continent. And we have just kind of been able to tag onto it, and I have a feeling that maybe the shiitakes that are here are not the native shiitakes. They probably came in as people started to try to grow them.
Who was the first person that decided it's like thinking about who was the guy that came up with the lobster and said, that looks like something I want to eat. Did that happen? Did that actually happen to someone?
Oh, I'm sure it's ancient. In the old, probably 2,000 years ago, the shiitakes of China would be grown on logs, and they'd be growing wild in the forest.
Right.
And people decided, okay, well, there's a down log here. Maybe we'll put them near other logs, and basically the spores jump.
Right.
The spores will jump and start to break things down that they can break down, and then all of a sudden you've got shiitakes.
That's incredible.
It's a little bit more hit or miss.
But the fact that they actually looked at that and said it was, I guess that at some point everything is edible.
Yep.
You find out.
I mean, it goes way back. I mean, they actually say that humans actually followed in a nomadic fashion, followed animals, and then had the mushrooms from their dung as they traveled through various parts of the world.
You guys okay with that? No, I didn't think so. All right. All right, so let me go back.
It's pretty common knowledge, though. If you look at all these ancient cultures, you will find mycelium is part of their art all over the place. Right. Mushrooms and different mushrooms have also medicinal values as well.
Right, and that's always been something that's been out there. So as we're talking, and I need to always kind of jump back to what I'm cooking, caramelize our shallots. I have our prosciutto in there. We have some really nice flavors in there, some salt and pepper. And I'm just kind of giving these a warming. I mean, you don't have to cook them down too much, right? You just need to
everybody's flavor is different. My wife likes things crispy.
Okay, so
Jenny loves crispy mushrooms.
Crispy mushrooms.
As a matter of fact, there's a little story about these black trumpets one time. I got this big pan of black trumpets. It takes you a long time to pick these suckers. They're very delicate. They're very lightweight. And I was cooking them all up, and then I had to go use the restroom, and I came back, and all the black trumpets were gone. And I was like, Jenny, where did all the black trumpets go? And she was like, oh, they were so good. I ate them all.
Oh, no.
And I was like, Jenny.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
No, it was good. I had some more, so I cooked them up.
Well, we got some mixed greens here, and that's just a nice assembly of just mixed greens.
Nice.
And then we're going to put the mushrooms over the top, and we're going to add our bruschetta in a second to this because you want to have a little, and then we have that vinaigrette, right? I'm just going to kind of let that drizzle over the top. You smell the red wine vinegar?
Oh, that's nice.
And we'll just do a little bit. You don't want to overdress, but you want that prosciutto over it. And this is a really simple salad. I mean, we're just using the flavors that were right in front of us. Really quick to do. And let's get one of our breads, and we just want it warm. We got a little bit of a toast to it, a little bit of crunch. And like you said, we're not going to put a lot on, but to kind of mix it with the garlic. As it is, something like these black truffles that are on here, are a jar like this could cost up to $100. A jar that's about double the size of what we have here, about $100 just for that.
Yep.
If you get them imported and chopped up well. Can you grow truffles in the United States?
There are a few places. We do have truffles that grow here, but they're not good truffles.
They're not the same.
Truffles are a pretty large spectrum of a sclerotia.
Right. Okay, so that's our first course. You're going to enjoy that. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the black trumpets, talk a little bit more about some of the mushrooms you have here, and we're going to make steak. Doesn't get much better than this, does it?
It's looking good.
Thanks for your help today. We'll be right back in a Culinary Minute. Hey everybody, welcome back. What I'm doing is getting ready our sides for our steak dinner. I don't want to tell you about the sides. This is going to be easy. We'll show you on another show. It's more about the steak. It's all about the steak today. And actually, it's all about the mushrooms. And Dave Wichland's with me. We're talking about mushrooms. How's that salad?
Really nice.
All right,
the vinegar explodes in your mouth.
Right, and it kind of brings all the flavors together, and it's a great way to have a salad. Really easy vinaigrette to make.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what were the mushrooms we used on that again?
Shiitake and oyster mushrooms.
Excuse me. I got some vinegar.
I grew the shiitakes, and the oyster mushrooms were picked out in the forest.
Awesome. And now, this area, the New England area, you could find oyster mushrooms on a regular basis.
There's a really small window of time.
Okay.
They grow up on beech trees or maple trees, and they'll come out, and if you get them right, they're perfect. If not, the temperature fluctuation causes them to dry out a little bit, and bugs love them.
Really?
So whenever I find a good, lucky stash, I'm like, yeah. But sometimes you could look up as high up the trees you could find, and they would be there. You need to get a ladder sometimes.
Now, okay, that brings us to a really important point. And now I'm going to be seasoning our steak, and I'm going to put on, we'll talk about the mushrooms I'm going to put on there in a second. But important point, if you go to get your own mushrooms, what's the rule? We had a nice...
A general rule is mushrooms on a tree are generally good to be. Mushroom on the ground should be frowned.
Okay.
Because there's more poisonous mushrooms that grow on the ground than, say, in trees and on trees.
So if they're on the trees, you're good to go.
Yeah, there is two poisonous ones. Of course, there's rule to everything.
Right.
But there's a heck of a lot more poisonous ones on the ground.
So the ones you find on the ground, like when you're mowing your lawn or your kids are playing in the backyard, the ones you see a lot everywhere, those are the ones you stay away from.
Yeah, unless you know.
Unless you know.
Unless you know.
And that's where you're involved.
Yeah, I'm involved, and then there's also a really group to plug somebody, the Monadnock Mushroomers.
Right.
It's a group of folks that go out oftentimes on Sundays. There's a little website on them, and you can go out with them and learn.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And then they just teach you about mushrooms in general.
Yeah, and we just go out looking, and we gather as many different mushrooms, and we bring them all back, and we sit down, and a lot of times we have some lunch together, and we go through all the guidebooks, and we say, yeah, this is this, or no, this isn't.
And it's a great way to learn because you're with people who've done it.
That's right.
There are some rules about, or some things that happen when you're eating mushrooms that don't make you feel good. Actually, you don't find out about it till
you're on your way out.
So be really careful.
Yeah.
And that's something really important to know. Go with people who know how to pick mushrooms because you really don't want to be caught with that.
Yeah.
Not feeling good.
Right. The destroying agent will shut down your whole central nervous system. And there's no turning back.
It scares me every time he says that. All right, so let's go to stuff we do know. We're doing some dry mushrooms. Now, you brought in a nice variety of mushrooms. These dry mushrooms are?
Those are oysters, and I believe there's some black trumpets in there.
And you dry them off, and is that sun-dried?
No, I have a little dryer.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And then what I've done to them, I've done a couple of other mixtures in here, is I've pulsed them down so we get the dry mushrooms, and they're going to go right on the steak. We're doing a steak au poivre. Now, a steak au poivre is a traditional French bistro dish, which is really simply black pepper on steak with a brandy cream sauce. Now, what we're going to do is make it even better by getting all those mushrooms into the steak in this level, and then taking some mushrooms into the brandy cream sauce.
Perfect.
With the black pepper. So we have those ingredients there. We'll get this out of the way because we won't need it. There we go, that's out of the way. Now we're going to get a sear going on these steaks so the mushrooms can get into them. Now dry mushrooms have a different flavor than when they're fresh. Is it that it's that much concentrated, or do different things happen to it?
Yep.
So it's all about
just
the concentration,
Pure concentration. It's just like dried mushroom gold.
We'll get this on a little higher and we'll sear those mushrooms
But it
in.
doesn't have the same texture to it.
Right.
So, you know, there's nothing that's going to be better than a fresh black trumpet.
Right.
It's really nice when it's dried, and it's best reconstituted in some way, shape, or form. But the fresh stuff is pretty much the best. Probably with all cooking for the most part.
The fresher it is, always the better. But
Yep.
Drying mushrooms, is that as much of preserving them for the long haul?
Yeah.
To have them when the season's not available?
Pretty much. That's
Just like
originally how
anything
it
else?
started, and
Right.
then chefs found value in, you know, utilizing the mushrooms dried as enhancements.
Right.
So that you didn't have to have tons of mushrooms.
Perfect thing that we used to use a lot of growing up was porcini, dry porcini.
Oh yeah.
And I got to get more availability through you with the fresh porcini. But dry porcini mushroom risotto tastes very different than the fresh one.
does.
It's really intense in flavor and
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So what we have here is our steak going. We're going to sear each side. There's a couple of rules of thought when creating steaks. Pan searing them. I'm pan searing them mainly because we have all these flavors on top of it. If I threw this on a grill, it would fall through the grates of the grill, and then you would lose some of the mushroom flavor. Here, we're actually going to make a sauce with the remnants that are in the pan. We've done that plenty of times before. So what I want to do is sear both sides, and then we're going to kind of finish these in the oven. You see how that's getting that nice caramelization? Some of the mushrooms are turning a little bit on the black side. Now, did you say there were some black trumpet mushrooms in there too?
Yep.
Could that, by reconstituting them, am I getting some of that back?
Yep. Black trumpets, there's chanterelles in there. I think there's a little bit of shiitake.
Excellent. So now what are we going to use for mushrooms to go with this?
Well, these are a really cool mushroom. These are the lobster mushroom.
Okay.
And this is a very unique mushroom. It is a mushroom that actually goes under the term of hypomenization.
Okay.
Another mushroom.
Hold on. A lot of big words. Just look them up later.
That's
Go
right.
back. Okay.
This mushroom in itself is a Rucola mushroom.
Okay.
But the Rucola mushroom gets hypomenized by the lobster mushroom. And essentially, the lobster mushroom takes it over and makes it be the lobster mushroom. So basically,
So it tastes good,
metamorphosizes.
Yeah, it tastes good.
And it
It's
tastes
like-
good.
So this is the butterfly of the other one?
Yeah, it's really like the butterfly.
Without the chrysalis.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
the only big. It's the only big word you're getting from
That's
me today,
sweet.
folks. Yeah. So the
And
lobster
nice and thin.
Cut them nice and
Nice
thin.
and thin, you know,
Okay.
because we've got a little steak going on here. You can make it nice and crispy, and
Awesome.
that's a
That's
real
what we'll
nice,
do.
beautiful flavor.
So do you think? And this is what I was going to do. I was going to sear the mushrooms after we take the steak out,
Great.
and then take them out of the sauce before I create the sauce, so that they don't get all mushy in the
Yep,
sauce. Is
that's
that
a
what
good
we want
idea.
to do?
Yep.
So is there any other mushroom that I want to put with this, or do I want
Well,
to
since
just
we have a little black trumpet in there, why don't we put this whole shooting match in them?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, same thing. We're going to make those nice and crispy. I don't have
Sure.
to cut these down, right?
You really don't. I don't
Let
think you have
kinda
to cut them
crisp
at
up.
all.
Awesome. So we'll get that going. So I'm going to take these steaks. Now, when I'm cooking steaks, I like to do it a couple of different ways. I like to finish them off here, or sometimes put them in the oven and finish them off. David likes medium.
Medium.
I'm going to go for a medium rare. I'm going to take the bigger piece. So what I'm going to do is take them on our pan here. We're going to let these finish in the oven. Then we're going to let them rest a little bit later. So let's get those in the oven and start crisping up our mushrooms. Mushrooms act like a sponge in a lot of ways. Do I need to put more oil in this pan, David? Or do you think I should let them kind of do their own thing?
I can't quite see.
There you go. I think I need just a little bit
you
more.
can start with that, and if you need to add a little butter on the way or something.
Sounds good. And that's a great way to finish them, too,
Oh,
with
yeah.
butter.
I like
So-
to do olive oil to start with,
Right.
and then add a little butter as we go along.
Exactly. A little-
I find that if you add butter right off the bat, butter kind of burns.
Right.
You gotta be
And
careful with
unless
butter.
you want to get a brown butter, you don't want to overdo it. A nice little brown butter is fine, but if we let it go too long, we're going to burn these.
Yep.
So we're going to try not to do that. We'll get these moving, let them kind of crisp up. Get some salt and pepper on this. Let this cook down. So we got our steak in the oven. We got our first mushroom cooking. We'll let that finish. We'll take those out and get the trumpets nice and crispy. When we come back, hopefully that black trumpet will be done. Start our brandy cream sauce. Check on our steaks. Slice them on the bias. Have mushroom steaks and some mashed potatoes to go along. Can't get any better.
Beautiful.
Awesome. David, thanks for being with us. We'll see you in a culinary minute. David, those round of applause are for your mushrooms. We're coming back with mushrooms. David Wichland, and right now I'm cooking up the black trumpets. We're going to take those out of here. We're going to get them, they got as crispy as I'm going to let them get. And like you said, some people like them super crisp. I like to give them a little bit of body to them. And then what we're going to do in here, we're going to make our brandy cream sauce, which is really quick because our steak's just about ready. Let's get our shallots in there. You know how I love to work with shallots. I think those are just great flavor to anything we're going to do.
Because they're milder?
Because they're milder, yeah. I don't like to really use onions all the time. And you don't need to use garlic all the time. Shallots just add another level of flavor. Can't go wrong. So let's get that. We'll get some brandy in there. Luckily, I have a high-sided pan, so that way I don't have, you know, everything's jumping where you cause a flame. Because if I did this, maybe no, good. See? It's a good way to be careful. And then we're going to add some salt and pepper into that, and our ariosto. We got a lot of flavor already in everything we have, so we don't have to. Now, we had a little bit of mushrooms left over, David, from what we were pulsing, and I'm going to get those in there too.
Oh, you're going crazy.
I'm all about the mushrooms today. I can't have you on the show and not be all about the mushrooms. And then we're going to finish this off with a little bit of cream. And then as that's coming together, let's get that together. We'll get that on a little bit higher. And cream is a great combiner of foods. You know, it by itself, it's going to create this beautiful sauce. We don't have to do too much. And cream in moderation, just like anything else, is good for you, right? So we have our mushrooms. Let's get my steak out. See how we're doing there. I think yours is going to need another second or two. We'll see how this one comes out. Now we're generally going to let that rest as this is cooking. We have some mashed potatoes. Let's talk a little bit more about the mushrooms you have here. We've already used a couple. What else is on your plate?
This is called the hedgehog. It is a ground mushroom, and you can see the bottom there, these little teeth. But take a nice little smell of it.
Wow.
It's got a nice little floral smell to
Yeah.
it. Very nice. It's beautiful mushroom, and it's only got probably a 2 or 3 week window of the whole year where it's around. These are the chanterelle. These are probably one of the most diverse of all the mushroom species. For cooks just love the chanterelles.
Now they come in different colors and shapes.
There's a white
flavors?
chanterelle. Actually, the black trumpet is a chanterelle.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And there's a couple of, there are definitely some other different, there's a western variety of the chanterelle. But there's kind of a yellow, a golden, a white, black trumpet, and then there's kind of the Gomphus family, which we don't have any here, but they're a little bit, some people react differently to them.
Whenever I get those in the year.
Oh, they're great.
Just by themselves, they're wonderful.
They're beautiful. This is called the brandy wine stropharia. It's got a nice, beautiful head on it right here. Actually, you can see some of the mycelium growing right off the bottom of it. That's a very nice mushroom. It has a real floral flavor. But the optimal time to actually eat this mushroom is this. Once it starts to get a little bit bigger than this and starts to cone out, it loses a little bit of its flavor. Does
it start looking like a portobello would and then be too big?
Yeah, well, it still would be okay, but it just wouldn't have the intense flavor as much. And that's what they find. The bigger the mushrooms there are, the larger they are, the more they've probably been out there.
Right.
And the flavor's just kind of been altered a little bit. It's not quite as strong anymore.
And that's totally not okay.
Well, it's okay, but the best bang for your buck is with a little smaller mushroom.
And more flavor. Now, you find that with berries and other fruits too. Smaller, more intense in flavor. It's not necessarily that they're going to have a better flavor.
Cultivated blueberry just does not compare to the wild one. It's just with its intense flavor.
All right, so we have our New York strip steak. Does that work for you right there?
Sure.
Beautiful, because that's beautiful. Let me get your plate. Let's get the mushrooms and the steak and a little bit of vegetables. So what I'm going to do is plate up a little bit of zucchini and squash and carrots. We'll put some mashed potatoes. Watch how nice this comes out. This is, you just can't ask for better. A little bit of garlic mashed potatoes and your steak along with the mushrooms. And this is traditional bistro fare, but done with the mushrooms. So we have a steak au poivre with mushrooms. Put the trumpets on one side. Now remember, everybody, we put some mushrooms in the sauce, some mushrooms on the side, and you can't go wrong with all the wonderful flavors we have. And we've created a really rich and thick sauce. Let me give you this.
Nice.
And I'll pour the sauce over the top.
We sometimes make a chanterelle butter.
Oh, nice.
It's like a compote.
Right.
And you add the chanterelles in it, cook it, and then cool it off and roll it and put it in any shape you want.
And then you could use it for a nice finish to a sauce, right?
Sauce or on bread, like bruschetta style. Perfect.
That is absolutely perfect. Now, before we go, you're going to try some of that. I want to try some of this. This is mushroom tea.
That's right, mushroom tea.
Just steeping dry mushrooms or fresh
Just
mushrooms?
steeping particular mushrooms.
Right.
Especially the polypore mushrooms. makes a wonderful medicinal tea. And if on the way back, well, of course it fell. Just when I
this is
say
what we
it,
get with our props there.
this has a list of all the different medicinal values of different mushrooms.
Right.
And mushrooms were the first medicine.
And is it yummy?
Oh, it's delicious. It's a
I'm
nice
gonna try
mild flavor.
Because you're going to eat the steak. I'm going to
drink it
toast
together,
you,
so-
and we'll drink it together, and I'll be healthy at the end of the show.
That's right.
And they'll get some steak to taste after the show if you don't
Perfect.
eat it all.
I won't eat it all.
We have some for Lee. And that's mushrooms. Our culinary journey went by way of the mushroom. And David, it was an honor and a pleasure to have you on.
Great.
Cheers to
It's a
you.
pleasure.
And we'll see you on our next culinary journey.